so what I'm going to do, I'll just quickly go through what we did for the sake of wisdom, of course, but then I'm not going to stay much. Make sure you go through what your friends have been learning. Otherwise, I say this is a curriculum development course. The curriculum we are talking about is a curriculum that is targeting the early childhood, whereby we agree to say we are talking about the ages 1 to 8. So we defined what curriculum development is all about, and in the definition itself, it has got a lot of wording, which we further defined what the words were meaning. So we said curriculum development is defined as a planned, purposeful, progressive, as well as a systematic process to create positive improvements in the educational system. So there is planned, there is purposeful, there is progressive, there is systematic. All these words, they've got a meaning, or there's a reason why they were incorporated into the definition of curriculum development. And we said that curriculum development is not an easy thing whereby you just wake up to say, I am going to develop a curriculum for the preschool. It needs planned, purposeful, progressive, as well as a systematic process. So we looked at what all these meant. And we also looked at when or why our curriculum developed. So one of the reasons why curriculum is developed or curricula are affected is when there is major changes in the world. So when there is a development happening or when there is a change that is happening around the world, the school curricula is affected. Do you agree with that? All right. So when the school curricula is affected, there is always a need to make sure that there should be an update, to make sure that whatever the kids are learning in school should be addressing the society's needs. That's what we were saying, right? So as the world is changing, as the society is changing, kids, when they are in class and they go out, they should be able to live within the society normally, because whatever they've been learning or whatever they are facing outside the classroom has been addressed within the classroom setting. So there are times when the world has developed, and we gave an example to say, or some changes, not just development, but just changes in general. So we talked about changes like in climate. The climate has been changing, we know. The kind of rain that we are receiving now is not the same rains that were coming a long time ago. How hot it is and everything else that has come because of climate change. The other thing that has come because of climate change is the proliferation of waterborne diseases. So the curricula has to change to make sure that kids have to be told right from the beginning how they can help to mitigate climate change. So you will agree with me to say that if you go back in secondary school, if you go back to primary school books, you will see that they are topics that are addressing climate change. So at some point in time, in this nation, Malawi, we were hearing the curriculum is changing, the curriculum has changed. So if you go back, you will discover that several other aspects have been included into the books of the learners to make sure that the society's needs are being addressed. So I gave an example of climate change. There was another example of, what was the other thing? How kids can prevent themselves from diseases, infectious diseases. But apart from that, you also hear about religious studies. A long time ago, we used to talk about Bible knowledge. So it was Bible knowledge and nothing else. But currently, when you go in that religion section, you will find there's religious studies, whereby Muslim studies is studied, there is a traditional religion, and there is Christianity, and all that. So all that has come because things are changing in the world, And other religions are like, why are we learning biology? I mean, Bible knowledge only and not our religion. So because of that, then the curricula had to change to make sure that it should also be addressed. Or maybe wisdom. Do you have another example that you think can cause the curriculum to change? Apart from climate change, apart from the diseases that we are talking about, or apart from the religion issues. Okay, you also, our curriculum hasn't changed to address the LGBT. You know what LGBT is? Homosexuality, lesbian, and so on and so forth, where kids are told to say it's okay to have a mother who is male and a mother who is male and a father who is female. But you go to other nations where you see that those things are addressed in the curriculum. However, what has happened lately is that learners have been told, you will go in standard 1, standard 2, standard 3, you will see that some of the things that are being covered in these classes, they are more than, you look at them and you go like, what are you guys telling kids? This is something that is supposed to be told to someone who's mature enough. What is happening? Because they have discovered that puberty these days is, the onset of puberty these days is faster than it was a long time ago. So a standard 4 child, a standard 4 kid is being told something that you would think it's fit for a standard 8 student. What is happening? What I'm simply trying to say here is the curricula changes depending on the changes that are happening in the world, depending on the developments that are happening in the world. Lately we are using a lot of internet and so on and so forth. So the curricula has to change to make sure that it is also addressing that. When the students come out of school, they shouldn't have a problem to work with a computer. They shouldn't have problems to work with any, not any, but most of technology gadgets. So that's why curricula changes, or that's why curriculum has to be developed. So this development of curriculum has to be systematic, or it has to be organized in the sense that you need to know who is going to be taught, you need to know how it is going to be taught, you should also know who will be taught. So how it is going to be taught, that's the methodology, right? Who will be taught, that's the learner. So when we are answering this one, we are looking at who in terms of what is the age, what is the characteristic of this age, there are all sorts of questions that are supposed to be answered in this one. So who will be taught and what will be taught. This one is the content. So content, the learner characteristic, as well as the methodology. These are supposed to be taken into consideration when you are developing a curriculum. I don't know if it's making sense. Okay. So each component is going to affect or interacts with the other component. For example, who will be taught? If you are targeting a learner that's about 2-3 years, you are supposed to get to know the characteristics of this learner. The learner that I am going to develop the material for, what is the learning difficulty that I'm supposed to take into consideration? Or what are the characteristics? So last semester, it's unfortunate I'm saying last semester, but she was not there. Last semester we were looking at stages of development, right? And we were looking at characteristics at every stage of development. So we said that there is a stage whereby children are able to, they can concentrate, There is another stage where they are very curious. There are another stage where their attention span is very small. So all those characteristics, they are supposed to be taken into consideration when you are trying to develop a curriculum, to make sure that you are not going to do something, or you're not going to develop something that's fit for a 5-year-old when you're targeting a 2-year-old. A 5-year-old, their attention span and as well as their methodology of teaching is different from a 2-year-old. So these three components, they interact with each other. That is why I said it is developing a curriculum. It is something that is not as easy as it sounds. It needs a systematic thought, and considering the components, you need to be in a position where you actually know that what I have developed is, one, addressing the outside issues that I am trying to address, but at the same time, the learners are also comfortable, they are understanding, and at the same time, you have to know that the method of teaching that I am using right now, it is fit for the age that I am dealing with. You can't sit a 2-year-old on a chair for an hour. They can only listen to you for about 15 minutes. You need to change your methodology. Whether you're going to make them stand up, whether you're going to make them sing, whether you're going to make them jump, but you are trying to make sure that you are still getting their attention. So we talked about the steps. What are the steps that are supposed to be followed when you're developing a curriculum? There are several steps that are supposed to be followed when you're designing one. And as a process, we said it requires a careful thought and strategic decision making. Because when you are developing a curriculum, not only the education people are involved, those that are within the education circles. You can't develop a curriculum just with those, because if I am an educationist, I need someone who is in the weather department if I want to address weather issues in the curriculum. If I want to address communicable diseases in the curriculum, I need someone from the health sector. If I want to address religious issues, I also need someone, an expert from those areas. So when you want to develop a curriculum, you're supposed to come up with a team of people that are going to collaborate, they're going to work together to make sure that the curriculum is going to be developed accordingly. But then, like we said, the first step is coming together or bringing together the curriculum development team. This team is going to come together to make systematic decisions. The systematic decisions, what are they going to be talking about? They will talk about the character of the learner, they will talk about evaluations, they will talk about methods, they will talk about content as well as intended outcome. What is it that we want our learners to know after going through these modules or after going through these books? So this is the intended outcome. So this team that is going to come together, it is going to make systematic decisions. These systematic decisions are going to be on the learners or learner characteristics. They will be on evaluations. What kind of evaluation are we going to do? Is it going to be an evaluation at the end of learning, or is it going to be within the process of learning, or we are going to do both? And again, what are the methods that we are going to be using after we have developed this new curriculum? So after that, then there has to be what is known as pilot testing. When the group has put together the curriculum, it has to be tested. Is this going to work? Or is this not going to work? The only way how you would know that this is going to work is testing it. So you need to, the team has to go out in schools looking for the learners that have been described, and then you go try it. After that, then you come back together and then you say, all right guys, we went out, this is what we were trying to find out what happened. Then each one of them has to bring in their experiences. All right, I think this one worked, it was easy, learners were able to understand it, and so on and so forth. But then when that happens, everybody has brought in their experiences, it has to come down now to the team again to say, all right, according to the experiences that we've had, then therefore let's remove this, let's add this, let's correct this. By the end of the day, they are going to come up with a material that has been prepared properly. And this material now, it means it has been tested. And it has been tested and it has been evaluated to say this is all right. But there is still another process that needs to take place, and this is now training the teachers. You have developed a material, yes. You have tried it, it is working, yes. But how about the teachers that are going to be using this material? So now, there is another step that needs the teachers to be trained. So these teachers now, if the government has got enough money, they can train each and every teacher, fine. But sometimes they will just go at a particular school, choose a few teachers, train them, let the teachers go back to their schools and train the rest of the teachers. This is a new curriculum and this is what is required of us and all sorts of stuff. I'm simply trying to go quickly through this because we have already covered this. And when that has happened, it means now the materials are ready. The teachers are ready to start using the new curriculum, and then it starts rolling out. So we started talking about the different stages now in details. I think this is where we stopped. All right. So I said when you want to develop a curriculum, there is supposed to be a team that is supposed to be put in place. The function of this team, the first thing that these guys are going to do is to plan. They will plan. We want to change the curriculum, guys, yes, but how do we do it? So the planning now happens. During the planning session, this is now where they are going to map the road. They are going to have a roadmap how we are going to do it, when this is supposed to finish, and everything else that they are supposed to do. So at the planning phase, if the planning didn't go well, it means the rest of curriculum development is not going to go well. This is the crucial stage of curriculum development. All right. So what are the activities that are involved within the planning stage? So during the planning phase, there is identification of a need. So we are calling it a need, we can call it a problem or an issue. What is this need, issue or problem we are talking about? Remember I say, for a curriculum to be developed, it is because there's a need out there, or there's a change that is taking place, or there's a development in the world that is taking place. So during the planning phase, you need to identify the problem that has to be addressed, or you need to identify the issue that has to be addressed. So apart from problem identification, there is also formation of a curriculum team. Formation of curriculum development team. Now maybe the question would be, who is doing the planning? And it looks like there are other people that are doing the planning, and then there's another group that is going to be called a development, a curriculum development team, yes. There has to be someone who has to initiate the idea or the development. So these are the ones that are in the forefront. It could be the people that are in the educational sector to say, all right, I think, guys, we've got a gap. So this gap has to be filled. So these are the people now that are going to sit on a table or wherever and then start looking at who else should we invite on our team so that our team has to be complete. All right, we want to address climate change, but then within us, we don't have any expert as far as climate change is concerned. So during the planning phase, 1, identify the issue. 2, you should also form a team that is going to be involved in the development of the curriculum. But again, conduct needs assessment and analysis. That's the planning phase. You conduct needs assessment and analysis. So we are going to look at each one of them, the 3 of them. When we are saying identifying a need, a problem, or an issue, what are we talking about? Formulating a curriculum development team, what is involved? What do we mean by conducting a needs assessment and an analysis? So we are still under planning, but I'm simply trying to say more on what is involved during the planning phase. Last time when I was at this stage, it looked like we are all confused. So we are still under planning, but I just want to explain more what happens under each of these 3 activities that are under planning. All right, so the first one we'll look at identifying an issue. When we are talking about identifying an issue, what is this? Okay, like we said, the need for curriculum development usually emerges from a concern about a major issue or a problem or one or more target audience. This section normally explores some of the questions that need to be addressed to define issues and to develop a statement that will guide the selection of members of a curriculum development team. This section explores some of the questions that need to be addressed to define the issue and to develop a statement that will guide the selection of the members of a curriculum development team. Meaning what? At this point, there is a team that's not full, that is in place. We still have people that are supposed to come in and join us. But at this level, we are trying to identify an issue. We are trying to identify a problem. So this problem, when the team is together, it is supposed to come up with a statement. This statement is going to work as a guide to the selection of the rest of the team members. So the statement is going to be a problem, the statement of the problem. Does that make sense? The statement of the problem. If I just say it like that, the statement of the problem. Does that make sense? It does? If you have a problem and you want to say it to somebody else, you're supposed to present it in a sentence, right? So that whoever you're telling should be in a position to understand, oh, okay, I think Kodeshi has got this problem. So whatever you are going to say, or whatever words you are going to dress your problem together, is going to be called the problem statement. So I have a problem, I need to tell somebody else. But then how do I tell her so that she should understand to say, this is really a problem that needs something to be done. So the problem that is in my head, I need to give it a head, I need to give it hands, legs, and everything else so that it should be well presented, and whoever sees it should be able to say, yeah, here is a problem. So all that is going to be put in a sentence which is going to be called a problem statement. So my point is, when this team, this half team is together, they are supposed to come up with a problem statement. This problem statement is that which is going to help them to say, okay, so here is our problem, and according to the problem that we have, I think we need someone from this department to help us, someone from this department to help us, this to help us, this to help us. How do you get to the point where you're going to choose each one of them? Your guide is going to be the what? The problem statement. So if your problem statement is not clear enough, it is going to help you to bring a team that's not full, a team that's not enough. So the better the problem statement, the better the team that is going to be formed. Can I move on? Okay, so if you're going to present to me your problem and you can hardly explain your problem, I'm not going to help you fully, right? Because I didn't hear your problem. This is what I'm trying to say. So this team, if they're going to come up with a statement that's not clear, that's not a problem enough, like we are saying, this is supposed to guide them to choose people that are supposed to help them to make sure that the team is complete. So if their problem statement is not good enough, they will also bring people that are not good enough in the team. So already you can see that whatever is going to be developed is not going to be good enough. Why? The planning. That's why I say the planning phase is very important. So you need to formulate a problem statement that is going to be a guide good enough to help you choose people that are supposed to come and help you in the team. All right. So we are saying we have identified an issue, right? First thing. Second thing, we have formulated a problem statement. This problem statement, 1, is going to help us choose people to come on our team. 2, the same problem statement, when the team has been called and they are sitting together with the previously half team, this statement is going to serve as a measure or a yardstick that is going to help these visitors to see how much they are supposed to contribute to the team. Or it is going to identify the scope of the curriculum content. I can see from the way you are looking at me. You have identified an issue, 1. 2, you have formulated a problem statement. And I said this problem statement is going to help you to see who you are going to call, right? So you have called the people, they are in the room. Now you are supposed to address them to say, you know what guys, this is what is on the table. So that which is going to help you tell the people what you are looking for is the problem statement. That's another function of the problem statement. The first one you said is what? It is going to help you identify people. The second one, it is also going to serve to identify the scope of the curriculum content. When we are talking about scope, we are talking of what will be included in the curriculum. So because you can't call people to say, all right, we are looking for you health experts to come to us. We are also calling the religious gurus and whoever you're going to go, and then if they come in, and then you start asking them questions. What can we include in our curriculum? No, that's not their part. You are supposed to tell them, here is our problem, and we want to address this. So that which is going to help you to identify the scope of the content or the scope of what is supposed to be included in the curriculum is going to be the problem statement. So you are going to read out the problem statement. If it's clear, they will be able to understand to say, okay, we are here because this is what we want to address. So from that time on, when everything else has been addressed, the people know. It means this problem statement is also going to bring these people together, right? So the health one, people that are coming from the health department, religious department, or the whatever department, they are coming together. Now they are going to be thinking alike. Whatever they have brought has to be put together. This is going to be done by the problem statement. And that's it about formation of a curriculum development team. I mean, not curriculum development, but identifying a problem. All right. So you have identified a problem. After identifying a problem, you have formulated our problem statement. After that, it means you are now keeping the problem statement to make sure that when the team comes, you read it out so you start working. The next step now is, let us now choose the curriculum development team. Yes, sir.
So I'm in IT student IT. I like this.
Panama? Okay. Where is it? It means you just have to catch up with us. I hope you won't take long. Alright, so formulating a curriculum development team. Okay, with the problem statement, then you start now thinking about, if we are calling these people, what are the roles and the functions of each and every team member? So you start thinking about that. What will be their roles when they come in, when they join us? What will be the role? What will be their functions? And again, you need to start selecting the members. The health department is very broad. There are people with different areas of specialty. But then you need to specifically select the people that you think will help you as far as your problem is concerned. So you start now the process of selection, and you put together principles of collaboration and teamwork, because as the team has been built, they are supposed to work together. They are supposed to collaborate to make sure that when whatever has been developed comes out, it has to be one. So the whole process is to make sure that you obtain expertise for the areas included in the scope of the curriculum, and among the team members, and develop an effective team. So why you will be talking about teamwork and all that, it is because you want to develop an effective team that is going to work together as one. So when you have told the group what you're looking for, now the team starts working. This is now a full team. When the full team is in place, you conduct what we call the needs assessment and analysis. How do you do that? You need to conduct a needs assessment. How can you carry out a needs assessment? There are several techniques that can be used. So one of them is what is known as knowing the knowledge and attitude and practice of the target group on what you want to address. In short, it's known as CAP. So here is a team that has been put together, and it wants to carry out an assessment on the problem that has been presented before them. So the problem statement has been given to them, but they don't know to what extent is this problem a problem. So, what this group is going to do is, it is going to go out in the field to find out to what extent is this problem a problem. How do you do that? You go find out the knowledge, the little knowledge that the learners have out there on the issue. What is their attitude on it? What is their practice on it? So, you are going to carry out maybe individual interviews where you are going to meet students one-on-one and start asking them questions. For example, if the team wants to find out the knowledge about LGBT issues, I am going to go to a student and I'm going to ask you questions. Oh, hi, what's your name? Oh, I'm Maria. How old are you? I'll say I'm 4 years old. Sounds like abuse. Have you ever heard about a woman marrying a woman? That's knowledge, right? I want to find out, do they know about this issue of a woman marrying a woman? Have you ever heard about a woman marrying a woman? And then the little girl goes like, no. You've got a sheet where you're writing, so you're going to tick. Okay, if when you grow up, I'm just suggesting, I don't think I would ask this to a 4-year-old. When you grow up, would you want to get married to a fellow woman? Yes, I think I would want to do that. Attitude. Are there, if she's saying she's never heard about a woman marrying a woman, you can't ask her to say, have you, wherever you're coming from, have you ever seen a woman marrying a woman? Because they've never heard about it, definitely they've never seen it. But if someone who has heard about it or who knows about it, ask them about that. When you grow up, so what is happening? You are simply trying to know how much do these people know on this issue. What is their practice? What is their attitude? If it's about climate change, you can also do the same. How much do they know about climate change? What is their attitude? Oh, well, we don't really care whether the climate is changing or it's not changing. As long as we're breathing, living, eating, sleeping, and everything else is going on properly, then it's fine. What is the practice? What are you doing to make sure that you are part of the people that are making sure that the climate has to get back to normal again? So, when you carry out this CAP survey, then you come back as a team, you come back together, and then you start evaluations. All right, you put all the information, the data that you collected together, and then you analyze it. When you analyze it, you actually come now to a point where you know what is the knowledge on this thing. You see that it's 2%. What is the attitude? What is the practice? The answers that you're going to get after your evaluations are that which is going to help you know how much do we put in the content, how much do we put in the curriculum, because it looks like these guys, they really don't know about this. You want to find out about teenage pregnancies? What are the practices? Knowledge. How can a girl become pregnant? Or how can you keep yourself from becoming pregnant? They will tell you, if you have sex while standing up, you can't be pregnant. Knowledge, attitude, practice. So you go back to the books and say, I think these ones, they don't know how a person can get pregnant. Then this is how much we're going to put into the curriculum. So I'm just giving you examples. But when you're talking about the early childhood, the issues may be different. The issues may be the same, but they're supposed to be diluted to their level to make sure that they should be able to understand, right? Okay. So, how you can conduct a needs assessment? One, by carrying out a survey, which is going to find out the knowledge, attitude, and practice of the people focusing on the targeted areas. So you can do that. You can also carry out focus group discussions where you gather them together and then you start asking them questions. They answer the questions in a group. So they will tell you, you've got a sheet of questions that you have, and then you start, whether you record or you simply put down their answers, it is going to be up to you. And you can also do some environmental scanning. You go to schools and see what is happening. Break time, kids are eating and they're just throwing things around. Kids have rushed out of the classroom, and before they wash their hands, they've already started opening their containers and eating. What are you doing? You're simply scanning what is happening. So the health personnel is part of the group. The health personnel has also included some questions on the paper. Whoever is going to carry out the survey, they've got all that. What are the practices as far as hygiene is concerned? Do you wash your hands before you eat? No. So that is going to be a gap that is supposed to be filled. So you just go there in the environment and then see what is happening. You're not talking to anyone, you're simply scanning through. After the bell has gone, someone is coming from the toilet straight into class. They didn't stop anywhere where they are washing their hands, and that's it. Or you simply look at the behavior of the children. Here is a stranger that's within their environment, and they're coming to you, oh hi, hello, what is your name? And they're all happy and clappy around you. What is this normal? No, it's not. I am a stranger. These guys are supposed to keep away from me. So you actually know how much of a gap is there out. Does that make sense? Okay, what is happening? You are identifying the needs. So as you are doing that, you come back together and then you see the depth of the gap or the size of the gap. If it's very big, that is also going to determine how much is supposed to be put in the curriculum that is supposed to be developed. If it's if the knowledge is okay, then it means it's not a problem. Then you move on to develop your curriculum. So it could be possible that when the curriculum is being developed, there are several issues that are being incorporated. It could be just one issue, but what we are saying is these steps are supposed to be followed. Do you have any questions so far? Planning. I can go on, no questions? All right. Let's talk about the content and methods. Content and methods. So when we're talking about content, we're talking about what will be taught. The methods, we are talking of how it will be taught. Was you done already? You done? Yeah, the first one. Sorry, it's my duster. All right, so when you're selecting the content and the method, there are steps to be followed. You need to state the intended. You need to step the intended outcome and select content between the two. Alright, maybe I start by asking, what does it mean to state the intended outcome? State the intended outcome. What does it mean? I have been making noise all over. What does it mean to state the intended outcome? You want to come up with content of the curriculum as well as the methods. But then, here are some of the steps that you're supposed to follow. The first one is you need to state the intended outcome. Stating the intended outcome, what does that mean? Remember, we have carried out a needs assessment, and we are now at a place where we have an idea what the learners need.
Maybe it's like coming up with what your founders in front,
Coming up with
what's your founders in front.
what you have found out when you're carrying out the survey.
Yeah.
Alright? He says stating the intended outcomes means coming up with or stating what you have come up during the survey. Alright? Yes, where is it? Intended. Oh, is it the word intended? What does the word intended mean? Intend. Come on, people. It's only, what time is this? This is, oh, it's already 11. But your brains are not full already. This is your first class, huh? Yeah, so intended outcome. He has said what he thinks it means. I'm waiting for you to. I want to see if we are on the same page. The thing that's come again. Coming up with problems that the learners are facing. Okay. Alright, coming up with problems. And wisdom said what?
Coming up with what we have followed during the survey.
What has been found out during the survey? Yes, Wiz. Intended outcome. Intended outcome. What does that mean? Planning? Planned outcome? What is it? You're still giving me the same words. What is planned outcome? As you're polishing that, let's hear from her. What do you think is intended outcome?
It's like bringing out what we have planned today.
Bringing out what you have planned? I'm not saying yes or no to any answer. Bringing out I want you to not to use the same word outcome. I want you to give me altogether new words, so I should be able to know that we are on the same page.
Okay, good.
Don't let their answers influence your thinking. Let them think the way they want to think your own.
Okay, coming up something new from the problem.
Coming up with something new from the problem. Okay. Alright, so according to you guys, stating the intended outcome means coming up with a problem or what has been found during the survey, or bringing out what you have planned and coming up with something new from the problem, intended outcomes. I'm still itching to ask you further. What does the word intend mean, Kisa? Intend. Planned? Yeah, it could be. It could be part of it. Alright, you find someone who has done something and then you ask them, what was your intention when you were doing this? What was your intention when you were doing this? You're trying to find out what is it that you wanted to happen, right? What was your intention? So we are talking about intended outcome. What is this outcome? We are talking about contents and methods, right? Okay. So the content and the method. So we are saying intended outcome. Can you connect the two? Contents, methods, and then intended outcome. Alright, when you're putting the content together using, or when you're delivering the content using different types of methodologies. When I'm talking about content, I'm talking about the content that has been developed. I'm talking about the curriculum that has been developed. The curriculum that has been developed has got contents in it, right? So, whatever was developed was given ways how it is supposed to be delivered. So, when you're coming up with a content, you also need to come up with a way how the content is supposed to be developed. But now, the first question that you're supposed to ask yourself is, what are the intended outcomes? When we are at this point, what we are trying to say is, what is it that you want the learners to show? Or what is it that you would want the learners to do? Or what is it that you want the learners to be able to exhibit after they have gone through the learning? Intended outcomes. What is the intention of the contents? What is the intention of the content? What is it that you want the learners to do? What is it that you want the learners to learn after you have taken them through? So, what the learners will be able to do as a result of participating in the different curriculum activities is what we are calling intended outcomes. Alright, a group of people went out to carry out a needs analysis or to carry out a needs assessment. and they have discovered that the young ones do not know about infectious diseases, or their health practices are not in order. So you have that knowledge, you come back to base. Now you want to come up with content. What is the intent? What is the intention of your content? Making sure that learners must be able. Learners must be able to, then you start listing what you want them to do. This is what we are calling learning outcomes. Learners must be able to understand or to know about infectious diseases. Learners must be able to know about, you start listing them all. So this is what we are calling outcomes. So if you have an idea of what you want them to learn, now you start selecting the content. Is this confusing you further? Are you going to plan content without first planning what you want them to learn? What should come first? Content selection or formulation of intended outcomes? She says selecting the content. She has got her own reasons. You're saying intended outcomes. What should come first? Content and methods. You have gone out, you have chosen you have discovered what the gap is, the need is. Now you know what you want your learners to know, or you know what the learners don't know. So when you know what the learners don't know, you know what to give them, right? Okay. Or when you know what the learners don't know, you know what you are supposed to put together so that they should know what you want them to know. So the first thing that the team is supposed to put together, I will just say this now as Bible truth. What the team is supposed to put together first is intended outcomes. What is it that you want our learners to know? So we want our learners to know that there is bacteria, that there is infectious diseases, that there is God in heaven, or there is the climate is changing. How is the climate changing, and all that. So by the time there is what do we call the first class again in the preschool? Reception. The reception is the last class. There is a middle class, there is reception, and there is this one, the first one. So you should, as a team, sit down to say, when the child is moving from reception class to first standard 1, I want them to be able to know that there are these things that are happening around. So these are the intended outcomes, right? So here is these outcomes that I have outlined. But now what will be the next thing? I need to now select the content that is going to address all the outcomes that I have outlined. So if I am talking about the weather, let me bring in content that is going to talk about weather, so that when this child goes to standard 1, she or he knows about the changing of weather. If I want to talk about infectious diseases, let me look for content good enough for a reception level child, and I teach them. When they go out, they should be able to do that. So I am going to select the intended outcomes first, and then I look for content, put it there. After I've done that, then I need to find the method of pumping in this knowledge into the young ones. So it is going to be different. The way I'm going to teach the reception class, the way I'm going to teach the middle class, the way I'm going to teach the baby class, it is going to be different. It can be about washing of my hands. But how I'm going to tell the first class is going to be different from the second class. You get it? So that now comes to the methods. The content and method. Even the information that is going to be included in the first class, I mean the reception class book and the middle class book and the baby class book, it is going to be different. You may discover that the baby class has got pictures of hands that are being washed, pictures of someone coming from the toilet, or pictures of someone that is about to eat and they're washing their hands first. But in the reception, it is actually something else different. The baby, the middle class, is singing about it. That's a different methods. But the intended outcomes are there. By the time he moves to the second class, he knows ABCD. By the time he moves to the reception class, he knows ABCDE. These are what we are calling intended outcomes. So during this stage where you're talking about content and methods, this is what the development team has to bear in mind. Design and experiential method. As I was explaining the two, this has already been talked about. So when we are talking about methods and content, these are the three things that are supposed to be taken into consideration. But if I am going to talk about each one of them in details, then here is what is supposed to happen. This is what says in support side. Alright, state the intended outcomes. So this one involves one, defining the intended outcomes. Now I know when I say intended outcomes, we are on the same page, right? Okay, so one, define the intended outcomes. During an exam, if I'm going to ask you, explain briefly what is involved in this stage, you should be able to start talking about these steps. So you define the intended outcomes, and again, you define the components of intended outcomes. When you're talking about the components, we are talking of conditions, performance, and standards. Also state examples of intended outcomes. Examples of the intended outcomes and an overview. Examples of intended outcomes and an overview of learning behaviors. An overview of learning behaviors. Different ages or different classes, they have got different characteristics of learning behaviors. So as you're selecting the content or you're selecting the outcome, you are also making sure that you are looking at the learning behaviors at different levels. you don't expect a middle class child to do something that a standard one learner is able to do. The second one was selecting content. Okay. This one is the next challenge according to the 3 activities that are listed. This one is this is a challenge. Why is it a challenge? Because selection of content is very crucial. This is going to make a real difference in the lives of the learner. They say garbage in, garbage out. If you're going to tell learners nothing, they will bring out nothing. But if you're going to give them substance or value, then they are also going to turn out, or they will give out the same. So selection of content is very, very important, or that's a crucial stage of it. So this process of selecting content, it makes a real difference. Makes a real difference in the lives of the learner. Thank you. Bueno, Zavura. Oh, okay. Alright, so we're saying the selection of content is very crucial. As far as making a difference in the lives of people is concerned. So if the content that has been selected is good enough, a nation is also going to produce students or people that are learned. If what you have selected is also somehow not good enough, the learners are going to learn. They are going to go through different stages, but they are not learning anything. So by the end of the day, the society as a whole is also not going to be good enough. So during this time, it is very important that the content that is supposed to be selected, it has to address the issues that are happening out there. That also follows to say, when you're doing the intended outcomes, make sure you are also precise. Make sure you're also sharp enough to make sure that you are addressing real life issues. And at this point, the primary questions are, if the intended outcome is to be attained, what will the learner need to know? What knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors will need to be acquired and practiced? What is happening here is, so now you've got your intended outcomes on one side, then you have got a whole load of content on the other. But then you need to choose this content. You need to choose the information that you have pertaining to the intended outcomes. So make sure you've got those questions before you to say, are the intended outcomes attained? 1. What is it that the learner needs to know? 2. But again, what knowledge, skills, and attitudes will need to be acquired. So as you're taking it from the jungle of knowledge or jungle of information, make sure you only select that which is going to address the intended outcomes. You get it? So there is a lot that has been written about religious studies, or there is a lot that has been written about climate change. But what is it that you want a middle class child to know about climate change? So you go in the jungle of information, you select only that which you need to make sure you meet your intended outcomes. Much as you're doing that, you are also looking at the learner characteristic. Whatever I am picking from here, is the learner going to understand? At the same time, you're also looking at the method of putting the information across. All right, so apart from looking at that, maybe let me put it down. Primary questions. Can you see? It's faint, but I don't know if you're able to read. No, yes. I'm asking you, people. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Okay. No? Alright, so as you're selecting the content, those are some of the questions that you need to be asking. What will the learner need to know? What knowledge, skills, attitude need to be acquired and practiced? So lately you have been, maybe you may not have come across it, but if you remember very well, people have been talking about why is it that in Malawi we learn about mountains that are not even here, we learn about agricultural systems that are not practiced here. Why is it that we don't learn things that are going to help us right within our nation? So this is about content. So lately, if you can remember the things that we've been learning lately, somehow they've been modified. You go to your agriculture books, you find pig production, you will find vegetable production, you will find goat production, livestock production. What is it? They are trying to make sure that the content, the learning outcomes that are supposed to be achieved is that when the child may not be able to be employed by someone, but they should be able to go somewhere, plant vegetables, sell, earn a living. What is that? Skills to be acquired. So even in the early classes, there should also be a place where these kids are supposed to acquire a skill. They should have an attitude change. They should have some knowledge. All that is going to come when the right content has been chosen. So choosing of content, it is very, very important. But again, it's not just about asking these questions to say what is it that they want to learn, how are they going to learn, or what are the skills that they are supposed to be taught. The other thing that is also important to know when you are choosing content is the scope. When we are talking about scope, we are talking of the breadth of knowledge, skills or attitudes as well as behaviors, how much the student is supposed to know, the depth of the knowledge. You want to tell a little child about infectious diseases. Are you going to start telling them about how bacteria multiplies? What are the conditions that requires bacteria to multiply faster and do that? You tell them about boiling and freezing and what happens to the bacteria is denatured or the bacteria is slowed down. They are not going to understand. So you can only tell them so much to make sure that their little brains should be able to grasp and make meaning out of it. So apart from looking at achieving the intended outcomes, make sure that the scope has to be fit for the learners that you are trying to target. So, selecting content, I said one, it involves the actual selecting of the content. As you are selecting the content, you need to ask yourselves questions. And when you are asking yourselves questions on what is going to be learned, how much is supposed to be learned, then you need to come to this place now where you are supposed to say, all right, we want the kids to know about infectious diseases, but how much can we tell them? Or how little should we tell them? So this is what we're talking about, scope. It is possible to tell them too little. It is also possible to tell them a lot more than they can understand. So we go back to the same issue to say understanding the learner characteristics is very important in as far as choosing content is concerned. Understanding the stages of development is very important when you are formulating a curriculum. Is that not what your assignment is saying? It is, right? Or you didn't even go through it? Alright, so on the scope, we are not only talking about how much the students are supposed to be or the learner is supposed to be taught, but we are also talking about the order of learning. It is possible you want to tell someone or you want to tell the learner about choose a topic or choose an issue that we want our reception class to know. Environment. All right. Environment. We want our reception class to know about environment, but environment is broad. Let's break it down to something else. What's specifically in the environment? We want them to know about the environment. What's specifically in the environment? let's talk about soil in the environment. Okay, soil is part of the environment. All right, but specifically, what do we want them to know about soil? We want them to know how soil is formed. So soil formation. Okay, so here is someone who's trying to develop a curriculum. They are at a stage where they want to choose content. So we are saying they need to ask themselves, what is it that I want these children or this learner to know? Apart from that, how much do I tell them about soil formation? Apart from how much do I tell them about soil formation, I also need to know, I also need to be mindful of the sequence of telling them about soil formation. So there are different ways how soil is formed. I need to take the child bit by bit to make sure that they follow me, they should be able to understand. I just can't come to a point where I'm talking about soil formation and then I talk about land degradation. We know what land degradation is. Or I talk about, I'm talking about soil formation and then I talk about maybe soil profile. Yeah. Soil profile. Here is a reception class child. I want to tell them how soil is formed and then I'm busy telling them about the soil profile. It's going to be too much for them. If I want to come to soil profile, that is now where it comes in to say curriculum development. It is not as easy as we think. It is something that is planned, organized, and sequenced. Remember? So, if I want a learner, by the time they have finished the school, they should know about soil in the environment. Let me take them step by step. The first step is going to be where I am going to talk about soil in general. What is found in the soil? Oh, we can find ants, we can find stones in the soil, we can find organic matter, we can find ABCDE. So it is going to be one class. When they move on to another class, it is going to be about, okay, where does the soil come from? Then we'll talk about weathering and all that. Types of weathering and blah, blah, blah. We talk about that. What am I looking at? I'm looking at the age of the learner and how much I am telling them. So it could be the first class. I'll just tell them about soil is part of the environment. That's enough. So here is a middle class. I am telling them about the environment. What is the environment? Things that surround us, right? Is that not what we say? Things that surround us. Okay, let me mention 3 things that surround us. Trees, buildings, soil. All right, soil is very important. Soil is one of the things that is found in the environment. We need to take care of soil. Why do we need to take care of soil? Because you can see the trees are growing in the soil. You talk about just the basics. He moves from middle class to the reception. Now you start talking about, all right, last time when we were in this class, we were talking about soil. Where do you think soil comes from? Then the learners start telling you, when the rain is coming, soil is also formed. That's what I used to think anyway when I was growing up. As the rain is coming, that's when the soil is also coming. Then you move from there, you tell them how soil is formed, and that's enough. When they move on to standardize something else, then you build on to the sequence, right? Until you come to a point in form 1, if not form 2, when you start talking about the soil profile. What is happening? You're building on what was already there. What is this? That's sequencing. So sequencing can happen over a longer period of time. Sequencing can also happen within a topic. What are you presenting about soil? So you want to talk about soil, but you start from environment. Environment, and then you come in, you bring in soil. What is happening? You are talking about sequencing. this is what scope is all about. So scope is not only going to talk about the depth of it, scope is also going to talk about how are you sequencing your presentation. Are you in a position to make them understand? Are they following what you are going to be explaining? You don't go back and forth and then you start all over again, but make sure you lay a foundation and then you start building brick by brick, block by block until it's big enough. Because if you start with difficult concepts at the bottom and then you start going narrow, they won't be able to understand. Just like, I'll give an example of her. Here she is learning about curriculum development. We are referring to some other things that we have already learned last year, but she doesn't have them. So she's building a wall that has got gaps in it, right? Yeah. But what was initially, or what was supposed to happen is you start from the bottom with everything else and then you go up. That's not a cause to worry anyway. I know you're going to fill up the gaps sooner or later. Okay, so this is what is under selecting content. Does that make sense? It does? Hey, I'm tired. Alright, there were 3 things. The last one is designing an experiential method. Designing experiential method. Remember, we are talking about contents and methods. So I said within the contents and method, there are these 3 things. Stating intended outcomes, which we have talked about. Choosing content, which we have talked about. Now the last one is designing experiential methods. After the content is selected, the next step that's supposed to happen is now to design activities. When we're talking about learning, experiential methods, it's not something you don't know. These are just words. We are talking about learning experiences. It's now, after you have selected the content, you're now supposed to design activities to help the learner achieve the appropriate intended outcomes. So here are the 3 things that this developer has. You have got the first sheet, or say maybe there's a chart here which has got intended outcomes, another chart there which has got the content. You need a third one which is going to talk about methods of how you're going to teach the contents to make sure that you come up with the desired outcomes. So how you are going to formulate the methods or learning activities is what is going to determine how much of this you're going to get. If your methods of delivering content are poor, you can hardly reach or acquire the intended outcomes. If your methodology is good enough, the content is going to get to the learner, and by the expected period, that learner is going to go out with what is supposed to happen to them. However, I'll still come back to say, forming a curriculum is not as easy as that. You can have very good methodologies, you can have very good content, but if you're giving it to the wrong class or to the wrong age, if you're not giving it to the right class, you are not going to achieve the intended outcomes. So whatever you do at any point in time as you're developing your curriculum, make sure that it has to reflect all those aspects that we say. There are three things that interact. Who you are teaching, what you are teaching, and how you are teaching. If you miss out one of these aspects, then you may not be able to achieve your intended outcomes. So at any point in time, when they are developing the curriculum, all these three, they should make sure that they are being taken care of. So when you are talking about experiential methods, we are talking about designing activities that are going to facilitate the learning. So here we are talking of the learning styles and activities appropriate for each style. We're talking of putting down a list of types of activities with descriptions. If you've, anyway, before I get there. So, methodologies, under the methodologies, we are saying you are supposed to state the learning styles. Apart from stating the learning styles, you should also state the list of types of activities. So the learning styles have to have descriptions, how they are supposed to be carried out. And apart from that, there should also be a sheet for facilitators that has got a design of activities. The teachers are supposed to have a sheet where all the activities have been clarified enough for them to use as they are delivering the content. Apart from describing the apart from describing the activities that are supposed to be carried out, there should also be a place where briefly you discuss on the learning environment. Because the learning environment also plays a part as you are delivering the content. So a brief discussion on learning environment and delivery modes. Methodology is very, very, very important. So I am saying you need to design an experiential method. So what is involved in this one is make sure you come up with learning styles and activities appropriate for each style. But again, a list of types of activities. This one has to have descriptions, how it is supposed to be done, and an activity design worksheet for facilitators. And a brief discussion on learning environments and delivery modes. Alright, so for today we stop here. So next time we meet, we will talk about implementation. At this point, what does it mean? We have What is it? Well, you've started signing first as if you came on the first day. You sign on the second space. Okay, so it means we have started right from the top where we have identified a gap in the society which is affecting the curriculum, and we have gone ahead to decide to change the curriculum, and the curriculum has been changed. I'm trying to make a recap of what we've talked about. So we have started from putting a team together, the team formulating a problem statement. The problem statement now gives us an idea of how much has to be incorporated into the curriculum, and then we have come to a point where we are now choosing the content, and the content has been chosen and put together, the methodology and the content together. Now, after you have done that, it means you've got something that's written and bound, right? So the next thing is that this thing now has to be implemented. The content, the methods, and the intended outcomes, everything else is being put together. The next thing that we are going to look at is implementation. How do you implement that which you have put together? So next time we meet, this is what we are going to talk about. The production of the curriculum product. How do you test and revise the curriculum? Because when you have done that, it does not mean that that's an end product. You may discover that you still need to make some changes here and there. And then when the final product has been produced, how do you take over from there? Do we have a question so far? If you do not have a question, I sent you an assignment. Does anyone have a question on the assignment that I sent?
Okay, for me, I would need to know like what the footnote, something like related to the ending.
Something like the notes. There is 2 pages excluding the cover page and the
Yeah.
reference page. You wanted to know that? Okay. When you're writing an assignment, you are supposed to give it a cover page. Do you know what a cover page is?
Yeah, like the first
The
page.
cover, the page that's on top,
Yeah.
where you're going to state your name, you state the course, you state, you can briefly write the question on top, the date, the program you're in. You get to know it from your friends, just find out. Yeah. So that's a cover page. The reference page we are talking about now, where you're going to write, where did you get the information that you're giving me? Because what I'm expecting from you is you need to go carry out a research. So as you're taking out information from books, make sure you acknowledge this is not, when you're doing that, you're simply trying to say, this is not my thinking, it's somebody's thinking, but I liked it anyway. So it's backing up what you have given me. I'm sure you're supposed to go through an English class. Did you do that last year? What was the course? English for academic purposes. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one is going to take care of your fears. But for now, I would encourage you to, sometimes when you're collecting information from the library, what you need to do is you simply read through the books, see what you like, take notes, and then somewhere write where you have taken those notes from. And then in your own time, when you want to put all the ideas together, so you know that this one was taken from this book, and then you acknowledge as you write. Yeah. Anything else?